He kills him as well. So now he's killed 100 people. And he goes on asking around, can I be forgiven? Is there any way of my tawbah being accepted? And he comes to an alim, he comes to a scholar, one who has knowledge of the deen, and he says to him, indeed, but where you are, the city you're living in, where everyone is committing sins, you need to leave that city and you need to go to this place and stay with the people in that village, and inshallah you will be forgiven. So this man, he sets out on this journey. What happens on the way? The angel of death comes and he takes away his soul. This man passes away while he is on the way to the land where inshallah he will be forgiven. No sooner that his soul is extracted from his body, the angels of rahmah descend and the angels of adab descend. The angels of mercy say this person was on his way to be forgiven. He made tawbah to Allah, we will have mercy upon him. But the angels of adab, they say, no, we will punish him, for indeed he's murdered 100 people. So then Allah sends a third angel to arbitrate between the two angels of mercy and adab who are in debate, in dispute with one another. And he says, measure the distance of the land. If he is closer to the land where he will be forgiven, then the angels of mercy are welcome to him. But if he is closer to his homeland, then the angels of adab are welcome to him. And when they measure the land, what do they find? That he is closer to his homeland. While they are measuring, Allah instructs the ard. Allah instructs the land. Allah instructs the zameen. And he says to the land that become closer on one side and longer on the other side. And then when they finish the measuring, what do they find? He was closer by one handspan to the land where he would be forgiven. My brothers, Allah can forgive a person who's taken away 100 lives. If you return to Allah with sincerity, Allah is there for you. You take that first step and Allah will come running to you. You see, there's two things that lead us astray. One is shaitan, which is our sworn enemy since the creation of Adam alayhi salatu wasalam. Allah tells us openly in the Quran, Inna shaytana lakum aduun fattakhidhuhu aduun. That indeed shaitan is your enemy, so take him as your enemy. Shaitan will continuously try to lead you astray. The first thing he'll try to do is make you commit haram. That's the first thing that the shaitan will try and do. He'll try and make you commit sins. If he is unsuccessful in making you commit sins, he will make you lazy in your ibadah. And generally, this is what we see tends to happen halfway through the month of Ramadan. We lose momentum. We lose that pace. Shaitan is locked up, but he spins the wheel so fast before Ramadan that we're still spinning today. It's like a stove on a hot burning fire. When you take it off, the stove is still hot. Shaitan, even though he's chained away this month, he's done enough damage throughout the whole year that we're still affected by his mischief and his whisper. If Shaitan can't make you commit haram, he'll make you lazy in your actions. If he can't make you lazy in your actions, he'll destroy your intention in your actions. He'll make you now start giving charity so that other people say, MashaAllah, look at this brother, look at how much he's donating in the way of Allah. If you can't destroy your intentions in your good actions, he'll make you do a lesser good deed to take you away from a deed that is more worthy of doing. Shaykh Zakaria rahmatullah alayhi once mentions the story that he was praying nafil salah and his father reprimanded him. His father hit him for praying nafil salah. And he's like, oh my father, I'm praying salah, what did I do wrong? He said, you're a student of knowledge. Reading your kitabs is more important than praying nafil. Shaitan is distracting you from reading your books and making you offer nafil salah. Shaitan is very clever, my brothers. He will attack you and keep on attacking you, and the worst attack will be moments before your death. Moments before your death, Shaitan will come and try his utmost best for you to utter words of kufr. And remember, kullu abdin yub'ath ala ma mata alayh. Every soul will be resurrected upon how he lived his life. The reality is, the way you live your life, that is how death will come to you. And the way you die, that is how you will be resurrected. So if we can't inculcate good habits today in in the month of Ramadan, sat in the masjid, if we can't increase our good deeds today, when are we going to change? You see, many of us have probably reached the age of 30, 40, 50. Many Ramadans we have seen, but it's had no impact on our lives. Ramadan is supposed to come and change our lives. But why does it not have any impact on our lives? Why? Because we don't understand the purpose of fasting. For many Muslims out there today, and it's unbelievable. It's absolutely unbelievable the amount of Muslims that will work amongst non-Muslims and complain about their hunger and thirst during the month of Ramadan. You know, when non-Muslims say to me, how can you fast? Not even water. What our reaction should be, the most motivated reaction, that we do this for the sake of Allah, the Lord of the Arsh and Kursi, who provides for me day in, day out, without even me thinking about where that risk is going to come from. All year Allah provides for us. 30 days just for the daylight hours, we can't even stay away from eating and drinking without moaning and complaining about hunger and thirst. You know, we believe that fasting is here just for us to abstain from food and drink. And then when it comes for the time of iftar, my brothers tell me, when did the month of fasting become the month of feast? This is the month where we're supposed to eat little. We eat more in the month of Ramadan than we do throughout the whole year. Our wives and mothers spend more time in the kitchen than they do worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And why? Because they don't want to upset the men in the household. Now, I don't want you guys to go home today and find no food because the sisters are listening. But in the month of Ramadan, the great awliya of Allah, the likes of Shaykh Zakaria rahmatullah alayhi, they would command the women folk that could just make a simple dish. We will bring the bread from outside. We will bring the samosas from outside. So all the takeaway owners getting happy. Yes. The month of Ramadan is a month for taqwa and for sabr. And these are the basic ingredients for any nation to be successful. And you see the Sahaba Ridwanullahi alayhim ajma'in, they understood this reality. If you look at the books of history, if you look at the Battle of Badr, when did it take place? It was none other than the month of Ramadan. You read about the conquest of Makkah, the month of Ramadan. You read about the Battle of the Khandaq, the Battle of the Trenches. What was this battle? This was the largest army that the Arabian Peninsula had ever seen. Their numbers had reached 12,000, and the Muslims were a fraction of that number. To ensure safety of the believers, they had to build trenches all around Medina Munawwara. And on top of that, the Yahud, the Jewish tribes that had a treaty with the Muslims, broke the treaty. So there was an enemy within. During this battle, what was the state of the Sahaba radhiyallahu anhu? A group of Sahaba came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They hadn't eaten for days. They raised their garments. There was a stone tied to their stomachs because of the hunger that they were facing. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he lifted up his garment, there were 2 stones tied to his stomach. And this was the battle where a huge boulder presented itself, and the Sahaba could not move it out of the way. So they called Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he struck it, and the spark came out, and he said, Allahu Akbar. Then he struck it for a second time, and another spark came out, and he said, Allahu Akbar. Then he struck it a third time, and another spark came out, and he said, Allahu Akbar. And the Sahaba said, O Rasulullah, we have seen you do something that we've never seen you do before. He said, what is that? They said, you said Allahu Akbar 3 times while you were striking that boulder. He said, Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam came, and he gave me the glad tidings that we will take the palaces of Syria, that we will take over the Romans. And on the second strike, he gave me the glad tidings that we will take over the palaces of Persia, the superpower of the day. And on the third strike, he said we will take over the palaces of Yemen. You see, this is the result when you have taqwa and when you have sabr. Allah will not forsake a group of people who fear Him. Read the Quran, open the words of Allah. What does Allah say? وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. وَيَرْزُقْهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ. That the one who fears Allah, Allah will assist him from means that he could not, his mind cannot even think about, that he cannot even perceive. Allah will provide for him from places he cannot even perceive. See, the purpose of Ramadan is clearly outlined in the Quran. What does Allah say about the month of Ramadan? That يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الصِّيَامُ كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. That fasting has been prescribed upon you as it was prescribed upon those before you. Why? So that you become conscious of Allah. So that you attain the fear of Allah. And that every action that you do, you remember Allah. Umar Allah once asked Ka'b ibn Malik, that tell me, describe to me what taqwa is. And he said, have you ever walked down a path that had thorns and prickles everywhere? How did you walk down that road? He said, I would capture my clothing and make sure none of the thorns prick me. He said, this is the same way as you go down life and shaitan attracts you and all the temptations of the dunya in front of you, and you safeguard yourself from all that which distracts you in the dunya. This is what taqwa, a person who is a muttaqi, is a person who can take out his heart, put it on the plate, go in the marketplace, and not be ashamed of whoever looks into his heart, because that is a pure and clean heart. This is the month of taqwa. And this is the month to inculcate these qualities into our children. But yet, what do we find in many Muslim homes today? Na'udhu, unfortunately, children have reached the age of puberty. But the mothers will say, oh, he's still a bacha, he's still a child. He doesn't need to fast. He doesn't need to go and praise Tarawih. The deen is being decreased in their homes. After Rasulullah left this world, at the time of Abu Bakr, only 3 areas remained upon Islam. The rest of them became Murtad. Only Mecca, Medina, and Ta'if remained upon Islam. And what did Abu Bakr do? He waged war against everyone who had left Islam. And he said, أَيُنْقَصُ الدِّينُ وَأَنَا حَيٌّ. That will the religion become decreased while I am alive? But what is happening today? Deen is being decreased, not out there in the schools, not out there in the parks, is being decreased in the homes. Why? Because unfortunately, many Muslim parents today, though their child has reached of age, still think their child is too young to observe their fast in the month of Ramadan, to go and pray their salah in the masjid. Alhamdulillah, you brothers are blessed to live in a community where such actions are not so widespread. But this is what's happening out there. And we need to advise one another. Al-mu'minu mir'atul mu'min. A believer is a mirror for another believer. When you meet your friends and they're not on deen, when you meet some of the youngsters today, unfortunately, when you go out into the streets of UK, what do we find? The youth, the Muslim youth, some are hooked on crack, some are hooked on smack, some are weed, whilst others on speed. Intoxicants are going to lead you to destruction in this dunya and in Jahannam. And on the day of resurrection, those who consume intoxicants will be raised in that same way. These bad habits of smoking and vaping, oh brother, it's tobacco free or nicotine free. No, anything that enters your body that is not meant to be entering your body is harmful. This is the month to quit those bad habits. This is the month to quit obesity. Quit habits of just eating constantly when there's no need. Drinking and eating and just enjoying a lavish lifestyle, wasting. Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal was once asked that can a man who eats to his fill have a soft heart? And he said, no. This is the month where you train yourself. You see, at the start of my talk, what did I say? We have 2 enemies, 2 things that lead us to destruction. One was shaitan that we know about. The other is your own nafs. The other thing that leads you to destruction is your nafs. And your nafs is different to shaitan. See, shaitan wants to take you to Jahannam. But your nafs will only take you towards that which you have made it accustomed to. You see, there are many things in this life that give you pleasure and give you satisfaction. But the reality is, all those pleasures that you seek in the dunya, all they do is raise your dopamine. Who studied science here? You understand what we mean by the term dopamine? So when you eat something, when you do something, when you smoke a fag, for example, and you get that rush in your head, when you're vaping with your boys on the street and you're feeling good, all that's doing is raising your dopamine levels. It's the feel-good factor. But we see the most richest of people in the dunya, they end up committing suicide. The greatest pop stars, the greatest rock stars who live that rock star lifestyle, what happens in the end? Many of them end up taking their own lives. See, if these intoxicants and if these pursuits towards pleasure were to be real pleasure, then would they take away their own lives? It's because everything that shaitan uses to take you away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it will destroy you in this dunya and in the akhirah. Because it is a fake pleasure. It gives you a fake sense of pleasure. But when you put your forehead down to the ground, where you are closest to Allah, and you make dua to your Creator, the Lord of the Arsh and Kursi, and when you give to the poor, and when you give to the needy, the satisfaction that you get, and the pleasure that you get, that, my brothers and sisters, that is the real pleasure. That is the real pleasure. So this is the month of Ramadan. Make it a month to remember. Make intention today. Make tawbah right now, here and now. Make tawbah to Allah from everything that you have done in the past. If you have music on your phone, take out your phones and delete your Spotify subscription. Delete the music that's in your phone. Do it straight away. Because shaitan is locked away. Shaitan is not making you listen to music. Shaitan is not making you look at haram. Shaitan is not making you listen to haram. It is you. You yourself are to blame. Do not lead yourself into destruction. Allah has safeguarded you. Allah has taken you out of disbelief. Allah has ensured that you are born into a family where both your parents were believers. Allah has brought you into His house in the month of Ramadan. Allah has brought you here to be reminded about Allah and His Rasul. Shaitan is locked away. The doors of Jannah are open. The doors of Jahannam are closed. The evil shayateen are locked away. If you are not going to change now, when are you going to change? You see, the most certain thing in life is that death will befall us. But the most uncertain thing is when it will occur. We came into this life involuntarily and we leave involuntarily. Allah is not in need of me and you. We, the creation, are in need of our Creator, Allah. Allah is not in need of us. Allah says in the Hadith Qudsi, narrated by Imam Muslim in Sahih, the narrator Abu Dharr al-Ghifari, radallahu anhu, in which Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, in that which he narrates from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah says, Ya ibadi, inni haramtu dhulma ala nafsi, wa ja'altuhu baynakum muharraman, fala tadhalamu. That, O my slaves, O my servants, indeed I have made dhulm, oppression, haram upon myself, and I have made it haram amongst you. I have made it haram upon you, so do not oppress one another. And then Allah goes on to say, Ya ibadi, kullukum darrun illa man hadaytuhu, fastahduni ahdikum. That, O my slaves, O my servants, indeed, in reality, every one of you is misguided, except for he whom I have guided. So seek for guidance in me, and I shall guide you. Then Allah goes on to say, Ya ibadi, kullukum ja'i'un illa man at'amtuhu, فاستطعموني أطعمكم. That all my slaves, all my servants, indeed, in reality, every single one of you is in a state of hunger, except for he whom I have provided food for. So seek for your sustenance in me, and I shall provide you your food. Then Allah goes on to say, Ya ibadi, kullukum aadin, illa man kasawtuhu, fastaksuni, aksukum. That all my slaves, all my servants, in reality, every one of you is naked. Every one of you has no clothes, except for he whom I have provided clothes for. So seek for your clothing in me, and I shall provide you your clothing. Then Allah goes on to say, Ya ibadi, innakum tukhti'una bil-layli wan-nahar, wa ana aghfiru dhunuba jami'a, fastaghfiruni aghfir lakum. That all my slaves, all my servants, indeed, you sin throughout the whole night and the day. You commit wrongdoing throughout the whole night and the day, and I forgive all sins. So seek for forgiveness in me, and I shall forgive you your sins. Then Allah goes on to say, Ya ibadi, إنكم لن تبلغوا ضري فتضروني ولن تبلغوا نفعي فتنفعوني. That all my slaves, all my servants, none of you can cause me any harm, nor can you cause me any benefit. Then Allah says, يا عبادي لو أن أولكم وآخركم وإنسكم وجنكم كانوا على أتقى قلب رجل واحد منكم ما زاد ذلك في ملكي شيئا. That all my slaves, all my servants, if the first and the last, the mankind and the jinn, were all to be on the most God-fearing heart of one of you, were all to have the most pious heart of one of you, that will not increase in my kingdom even the slightest. Then Allah goes on to say that Ya ibadi, لو أن أولكم وآخركم وإنسكم وجنكم كانوا على أفجر قلب رجل واحد منكم ما نقص ذلك مما عندي. That all my slaves, all my servants, if the first and the last, the mankind and the jinn, were all to have the most sinful heart of one of you, were all to have the most transgressing heart of one of you, that will not increase in my kingdom even the slightest. Then Allah goes on to say, Ya ibadi, لو أن أولكم وآخركم وإنسكم وجنكم قاموا في صعيد واحد فسألوني فأعطيت كل إنسان مسألته ما نقص ذلك مما عندي. Now, all my slaves, all my servants, if the first and the last, the mankind and the jinn, were all to stand on one field, were all to stand on one plane of land, and they were to all make dua to me, they were to all supplicate to me, they were to all call out to me, and they were to all ask each and every soul of his heart's desire, and I were to give every soul what he desired, that will not decrease from my kingdom except the way a needle decreases from an ocean when it is dipped into an ocean. The reality is, my brothers, when a needle is dipped into an ocean, not an ounce of that ocean is decreased. Then Allah says, Ya ibadi, إنما هي أعمالكم أحصيها لكم ثم أوفيكم إياها فمن وجد خيرا فليحمد الله ومن وجد غير ذلك فلا يلومن إلا نفسه. Now, all my slaves, all my servants, indeed these are your actions which I record for you, and you will get the recompense on Yawm al-Qiyamah. So whomsoever finds good, let him praise Allah the Almighty, and whomsoever finds anything other than good, then let him not blame except himself. Let us make an intention to return to Allah today, my brothers. If we are not offering our salah, let us make that start today. If we are not reciting the Quran, Al-Quran hujjatun laka aw alayk, remember the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the Quran is evidence for you or against you. The Quran is not just to be on our top shelf covered in dust, my brothers. The Quran should be in the heart of every believer. Why is it that we just select a handful to become the huffaz of the Quran? Every single Muslim, every single believer, you make the intention now, you die without finishing your memorization of the Quran, Allah will raise you with the huffaz, inshallah, on the day. You see, Allah is so merciful that when you do a good deed, as soon as you make the intention, Allah has already written down it as a good deed. Then when you do it, Allah gives you a minimum of 10 rewards up to 700. And Allah multiplies. But when you commit a sin, when you make an intention to do a wrongdoing, Allah does not instruct the angel on your left shoulder to write it down as a sin. Only once you commit the sin, it goes down as one sin. And if you made a bad intention and then you stopped yourself from doing that wrongdoing, Allah changes that to a good. Allah says, Inna rahmati sabaqat qadri. Indeed, my mercy has surpassed my wrath. Allah is here. Allah is waiting for you. It is down to us now to come back to Allah. All it takes is to raise your hands and say, Ya Allah, please protect me from my wrongdoings. Bring me back into the fold of the deen. Allahumma rudda muslimina ila dinihim maraddan jameel. Allahumma rudda muslimina ila dinihim maraddan jameel. Allahumma a'izz al-Islam wal-Muslimin. Allahumma a'izz al-Islam wal-Muslimin. Allahumma taqabbal salata wa siyama wa qiyama wa ruku'a wa sujuda. Allahumma ja'alna min utaqa min shahri Ramadan. These are the du'as that you should be making after every salah. Oh Allah, accept my salah. Oh Allah, accept my fasting. Oh Allah, accept my qiyam al-layl. Oh Allah, accept my ruku. Oh Allah, accept my sujood. Oh Allah, make me from those every night in the month of Ramadan. Allah emancipates souls from the hell. Allah clears the register of the hellfire every night, all year round, the last portion of the night. Now, something amazing here. If you look at the CEOs of the world, if you look at the movers and the shakers of the world, the likes of Jeff Bezos and the like of Elon Musk and the like of Steve Jobs, and you look into their biography, you will see that maybe the reason they are successful is because there are things that they do that maybe the Muslims should be doing. Things like going to bed on time and waking up. If you read many of the books that are out there on personal development, many of these self-help gurus that you see on YouTube and Instagram and all these other places, you will see that a lot of what they preach is already there in the Sunnah. Rasulullah disliked talking after the Isha Salah, engaging in futile conversations after Isha Salah. Yet, what do we find even in the month of Ramadan happening? The month of Ramadan, the nights are to worship Allah, my brothers. The night isn't to go to Small Need Country Road and be chilling on those stores outside. I was listening to a young brother saying they're selling vapes this year. What part of Ramadan is that? Oh, yeah, it's a good vibe. After Tarawih, yeah, it's a good vibe. Let's go down and have some coffee and tea. No, the month of Ramadan, the night time for you to be in the masjid. If you're not going to be in the masjid, if you're not going to be praying at home, go to sleep so you can wake up for your suhoor. تسحروا فإن في السحور بركة. Take part in your suhoor. What does Bengali say? No Bengali say. So, the month of Ramadan, the night time, iftar time isn't for you to have a feast. Yes, eat enough so that your mind is not thinking about food and drink anymore, but then make haste to go and offer your salah in the masjid in Jama'ah. And then once the salah has finished, if you can stay in the masjid for Qiyam al-Layl. If you can't, offer some rakat at home. This is what the night of Ramadan is for. If you don't have the energy to stay up at night, it's better for you to go sleep. Better for you to go to sleep and wake up for your suhoor so you don't miss the blessed meal before your Fajr Salah. Come and offer your Salah in the masjid. We shouldn't be praying our Fajr Salah at home, not in the month of Ramadan, or not any other month in the year anyway. But at least in the month of Ramadan, my brothers, pray your Fajr in the masjid. If you're not coming to the masjid for Fajr Salah in Ramadan, do you think you're ever going to go to the masjid for Fajr Salah? This is the month to instill all the good habits in your life. Give up smoking. Oh, brother, I've been smoking for the past 35 years. No, it's hard, man. No, it's not hard. It's not difficult at all. It's you who's telling yourself it's hard. And let me tell you how dangerous the act of smoking is. You see, my background is I work in oncology. That is my background. I work in radiotherapy. I deliver radiation treatment to cancer patients. And I can tell you how evil the act of smoking is. You see, cancer, let me tell you about cancer, give you a science lesson now. Cancer has 3 stages. It's called carcinogenesis. The first stage is initiation. The second stage is promotion. And the third stage is progression. You see, some people may come into this world with cells in the body that are already initiated to develop into cancer. But it's only when something carcinogenic, there's over 200 causes of things in the atmosphere, in the environment, from the food, from the air, from various things that are carcinogenic that can cause cancer. And let me tell you, smoking cigarettes, yes, you may debate, oh, it's makruh, tahrimi, it's not haram, brother. Let me tell you, it is haram. Why is it haram? Because it has been proven to destroy you and destruct your cells at a cellular level. When you smoke, even if you don't smoke yourself, when someone next to you smokes, what happens even for a person passive smoking? Amount of patients I've seen who developed lung cancer, and you ask them, did you have a history of smoking? No, I've never smoked in my life. Allahu A'lam why they had cancer. But people who never even touched a cigarette can develop cancer from passive smoking. That's how dangerous it is. It goes into your cells. Do you understand what cells are? Every body part that you have is an organ. Organs are made up of tissue. The tissue is made up of cells. The cells can't be seen unless you look at them under a microscope. Now, your cells have a nucleus within it. The nucleus has what you have, your chromosomes, your DNA that you inherited from your parents. Let the atheists explain that to you, how we got DNA. So, when something carcinogenic comes into your body, it mutates your cells, it breaks out the strands of DNA, destroying the cell. So now the cell becomes mutated. It doesn't know what to do. So it rapidly starts to replicate itself. Like when you cut your skin, what happens? Anyone study meiosis, mitosis in science? Any secondary school students? When you cut your skin, by the will of Allah, what happens? New skin cells form. So if your cells in your body are mutated, what happens? They start to rapidly develop and they create extra bits of tissue that your body doesn't need. Sometimes it just occupies space, but other times it infiltrates everything around it, killing everything. And that's what cancer is. So when you smoke, do you know what happens? Those cells that may have been initiated at birth, which may have never developed into cancer, smoking promotes them and it progresses them into cancer. This is the month of Ramadan. If you smoke, quit smoking now. If you take intoxicants, if you roll up a spliff with your boys, this is the month to cut it out. This is the month, return to Allah, come away from intoxicants, come away from gambling, come away from looking at evil, come away from listening to evil. Improve your relationships in the house. See, in the month of Ramadan, maybe the only month where we all sit together as a family. Alhamdulillah, at least we all get to sit together as a family. If you have hard feelings, if you've had a misunderstanding with someone in the family, this is the month to let everything be. Remember, there was a man who the Prophet ﷺ said that this is a man from Jannah. And the Sahaba looked at this person. He was just a simple being, performed his wudu, coming to the masjid, he was walking past. And the Prophet ﷺ said to his companions that if you want to see a man from the people of Jannah, then look no further, look at this man. So there was a companion in the gathering. He said, I can't see anything special about this brother here. What's so special about him? Let me go and stay with him for a few days. I'll find out. Told the rest of them, I'll investigate. I'll let you know. So those days, turn up at anyone's door. Can I stay with you? Alhamdulillah. No, mashallah, bismillah, come in. So he went, stayed with him for a few nights, and he was disappointed. He's like, what's so great about it? This man? I'm better than him. He doesn't do anything special. He's like, the only thing I've seen him do when he rolls around in his sleep, he says, SubhanAllah, Alhamdulillah. And then after 3 days, he didn't tell him why he was staying with him. Didn't talk to him about his behind the scenes investigation work. After the 3 days, he told him, he said, the Prophet said, you're a man from Jannah. He goes, I don't know what you do. That's so special. That's going to take you to Jannah. I came to learn, so I can do the same thing and go to Jannah. So he said, I can't think of anything that I do. He was so happy that the Prophet said that about him. He could not think of a single thing that he was doing that was special. Then he said, there is one thing that I do. That every night before I go to sleep, if I have any hatred, any envy, any jealousy, any hard feelings against anyone, I forgive everyone. And then I go to sleep. I think that's the reason why. So because this person would not harbor any ill feelings against anyone, he was granted Jannah. So again, this is the month in which we reflect on what we do reflect on our actions. If you don't already, there's two things that the spiritual shuyukh tell us to do is muraqaba and muhasaba. Anyone understand the term muraqaba and muhasaba? Muraqaba is the act of reflecting upon what you are going to do in the future. So before you do any action, you should stop and you should ask yourself, is what I'm about to do beneficial for my akhirah or not? If it's not beneficial for your akhirah, don't do it. Then you ask the second question, okay, it may not be for the akhirah, but it's something I need to do for the dunya. Then make sure it's within halal and carry on. Now, muhasaba is after you've done an action, to look back now. Look back at the action. And if you've done something good, make dua to Allah to accept it from you. And if you've done something wrong, then make tawbah straight away. You see, Ramadan, we know from the famous hadith, man sama Ramadan imanan wa ihtisaban, ghufira lahu ma taqaddama min dhanbi. That whoever fasts the month of Ramadan with iman and seeking reward from Allah, then Allah will forgive all his past sins. So this hadith refers to the minor sins. As for the major sins, you need to weep in front of Allah. You need to cry in front of Allah. And there's three conditions for your tawbah from a major sin to be accepted. You need to acknowledge your wrongdoing and you need to be remorseful. That's number one. What's the second thing? To make a firm, to leave the sin immediately, and finally, to make a firm intention never to return to that sin again. So for major sins, what do we need to do? First, have remorse over what you've done. There are many people out there who are involved in a wrongdoing, but they don't see it as wrong. May Allah protect us from them. You know, Allahumma arina al-haqqa haqqa warzuqna ittiba'a wa arina al-batila batila warzuqna ijtinaba. Remember this dua. Oh Allah, show us that which is haqq for being haqq, and show us that which is batil for being batil. That's the first thing, that understand that it's haram. If you're finding a certain action that you're involved in difficult to stay away from, the first thing to do is keep telling yourself that this is haram, this is what Allah will be unhappy with me for doing. Keep reminding yourself. And then once you've made your tawbah, you've come away from that wrongdoing, pray to Allah, ask for forgiveness, but the first thing is to have remorse, genuine remorse, and to cry in front of Allah. You see, today we think it's an aib to cry in front of Allah. Let me tell you something. Men who are stronger than you and I, men who are more macho than you and I, cry before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Men, the likes of the sword of Allah, Khalid bin Walid, it said that from Fajr till Zuhr, he would pick up the Quran, he would recite the Quran, and he would cry throughout. Men like Amir al-Mu'mineen, Umar had permanent lines going down his cheek because he cried so profusely out of the fear of Allah. But nowadays we think it's a deficiency if you cry. It is not a deficiency. And if you are unable to cry, then you should, when you recite the Quran and you make your dua, you should try your best to make yourself cry. That is what the ulama have told us to do. Make dua. If you are unable to cry in front of your Creator, make this dua. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min aynin la tadma. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min aynin la tadma. Because if you can't cry in front of your Allah, then there is a deficiency in your heart. If you're finding it hard to come away from sin, if you're finding it difficult to go towards good deeds, it's because the sins that you have committed have put so many black spots on your heart and He has covered it. The purification and the cleansing of your heart is the remembrance of Allah. Do not let your tongue become dry. Keep it moist with the remembrance of Allah. You see, on the day of judgment, when the believers will enter Jannah, the only thing that they will have remorse over are those moments that elapse without the remembrance of Allah. So I'd like to conclude with a few words, and with the final bit of advice that many youngsters sat before me today. The Prophet ﷺ told us, سَبَعَةٌ يُظِلُّهُمُ اللَّهُ فِي ظِلِّهِ يَوْمَ لَا ظِلَّ إِلَّا ظِلُّ. That there are 7 types of people who will be granted shade under the arsh of Allah on that day when there is no shade except for His shade. On the day when the sun will just be a mile above your heads, when people will be sweating and drowning in their sweat, some to their knees, some to the waist, some up to the necks, according to the sins that they committed. But you will see on the plane of resurrection, there will be a group of people who will be protected from the heat of the sun on that day. Who are those people? Imamun adil, and just ruler. وَشَابٌ نَشَأَ فِي عِبَادَةِ اللَّهِ. A youngster, a person in the days of his youth, he grew up worshipping Allah. وَرَجُلٌ قَلْبُهُ مُعَلَّقٌ فِي الْمَسَاجِدِ. And a man whose heart is connected to the masajid. وَرَجُلٌ دعته امرأة ذات منصب وجمال فقال إني أخاف الله. And a man who is called towards indecency by a woman of great status and beauty, and he says, indeed I fear Allah. And a man who gives in the way of Allah, he gives with his right hand so much that his left hand doesn't even know what his right hand is. And 2 friends who only meet and separate for the sake of Allah. And a person who remembers Allah in solitude and tears begin to flow from his eyes. If you want salvation on the day of judgment, we should strive to become one of these people. The Prophet ﷺ also said, اغتنم خمسا قبل خمس. That take heed of 5 before the coming of 5. Take advantage of 5 before the coming of 5. شبابك قبل حرم. Your youth before your old age. وصحتك قبل سقم. Your health before you become ill. وغناك قبل فقر. Your wealth before you become impoverished. وفراغك قبل شغلك. Your free time before you become preoccupied. وحياتك قبل موتك. And your life before your death. And I'll end with the final hadith. إذا مات الإنسان انقطع عنه عمله إلا من ثلاثة. That when a person passes away, all his actions will come to an end, except for 3. What are those 3? إلا من صدقة جارية. Except for sadaqah jariyah, an act of charity, the reward of which will continue until the day of judgment. وعلم ينتفع به. Knowledge, sacred, beneficial knowledge. This, the reward of which will continue until the day of judgment. وَوَلَدٌ صَالِحٌ يَدْعُو لَهُ. And a pious child that makes dua for you. My respected Maulana here has established with his team an amazing masjid with amazing activities. You know, I don't get enough time to call him and congratulate him on his good work, but every time I see Ad-duha pop up on Facebook and other areas, you know, it brings joy to my heart. You have a beautiful establishment here. You have an amazing sheikh here running the place. You have amazing teachers teaching the children Quran. See, these 3 things that I just spoke about that are in the hadith that will continue till the day of judgment. You can be part of all 3 just by being part of it. How? By assisting the masjid financially, by assisting the madrasa financially. This is an act of charity that will continue to benefit you up until the day of judgment. This is a center of knowledge. Come here, take part in the lessons. Yes, coming to a talk, this is good for inspiration, for motivation. But what we do after that, this is what matters. You see, when Hazrat Ali became the Khalifa, what was his first sermon? He said two sentences. He said, "Oh people, you are in need of a rajulun fa'al la qawwam. You are in need of an action man, not a person who just speaks. It's easy to stand here and give a talk, but what we do thereafter, that is what counts. Who's going to return at Fajr time? That's what counts." Is the masjid packed out? A good place. The way we are packed out on Jumu'ah, the way we are packed out at Tarawih time on the first night of Ramadan and the 27th night, every Salah time should be the same. Then the help of Allah will descend. So let us make a change today. Let us make that intention today. Make tawbah from all your major sins. Make tawbah. You're going to have individual ibadah time. Let us all raise our hands, make tawbah to Allah from any major sin that we may have committed, make tawbah. And know that this month of Ramadan, it will be an expiation of all of your sins. And inshallah, on the day of Eid, we will all be kayom waladatka like the day your mother gave birth to you, free from sins. Ramadan is still here. Allah is waiting for you. Allah wants to free you from the hellfire. Allah descends to the lowest, at the third part of the night, Allah descends to the lowest heaven. The angels call out, Ya baghi al-khayr, aqbil, wa ya baghi al-shar, aqsir. The O doer of good, come forth, and O doer of mischief and wrongdoing, stop doing those actions that are going to lead you to destruction. You see, on the day of judgment, the greatest degree, see, we're all chasing the paper today. You know, we start off with school, then college, then university. Imagine spending 3-4 years at uni and then getting your certificate that says fail. How would you feel? But the ultimate failure, the utmost failure, will be on that day when the people will receive the book of deeds in their left hand, behind their backs, and the kafir will say, Ya laytani kuntu turaba. Oh, how I wish I was just. And what will be said to the pious souls on that day, let alone that day, what will be said to that nafs which was trained to become a nafs al-mutma'inna, the content soul. The angels will descend and they will say, and the call will be said, Ya ayyatuha nafs al-mutma'inna, irji'i ila rabbiki radiyatan mardiyya. The O content soul, return to your Lord, being pleased with him and him being pleased with you. Then on the day of judgment it will be said, فَادْخُلِي فِي عِبَادِي وَادْخُلِي جَنَّتِي. Enter with my servants, enter into my garden. And there will be a special door on that day. For every one of you here today, inshallah, there will be a special door by the name of Rayyan, which will call out to you. I will call out to all those who fasted on in the dunya and say, enter into Jannah through me. Muaz ibn Jabal said there will be a call called out on the day of judgment that where are the muttaqun? And a group of people will stand up, and it was said that what did they do to achieve this status of being from amongst the muttaqun? And it will be said that they worshipped Allah without ascribing partners to him, and that they were sincere in their actions. Hazrat Ali Radhaman said with regards to taqwa, al-khawfu min al-jaleel, wal-amalu bit-tanzeel, wal-qana'atu bil-qaleel. That taqwa is al-khawf min al-jaleel. It is to fear the Almighty. And it is al-amal bit-tanzeel, to act upon that which Allah revealed. Wal-qana'atu bil-qaleel, and to be satisfied with little. This is the month to be satisfied with little. So I pray that Allah keep us united in this dunya and reunite in Jannah till Firdaus. I pray that we are all called into Jannah through the door of Rayyan. I pray that Allah make us from those whose souls will be emancipated from the hellfire. I pray that Allah keep us under His rahmah, and that during these next 10 days, Allah forgive us for all our sins.
Yoosuf, for that highly motivational, inspirational reminder. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us all the ability to take benefit. May Allah make it a means for him on the day of judgment to enter through the door of Rayyan and make a sadaqah jariyah for him, inshallah. Whereas we have some time now, inshallah, around 30 minutes for individual ibadah before the iftar time. And then after that, there will be food as well, inshallah. So do stay for that. And it's just about under half an hour. And after that, we'll be having the adhan, inshallah.